It's a bull. Good morning. Hey, what's up? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea and quite cold. Take a look at this. Let me just kind of fill that screen up for you a little bit. Takes a moment here. 48 degrees this morning when I woke up. I think it's still like 50 or 51. Those must be Canadians right there. I know surfers are out there. He's got a full wetsuit, I'm sure. Looks like a tiny longboardable wave as well. So that's your beach and surf report for the day and your weather report, folks. So it is beautiful down here. Hope that your day is as nice as well. Got a couple things we're going to talk about in today's show. And it won't be surf, unfortunately. It won't be fishing or anything. Even though I did go fishing this last weekend. Didn't catch anything. Beautiful sky, though, and it was a beautiful day. A couple cool things we're going to talk about. Obviously, this is my quote for the day, and going to go over some things that Ted Butler has brought up this week that are kind of breaking news, and take a look at a couple graphs and a few other things here. This is by Ludwig von Mises. I used to call it Mrs. a long time ago. A friend of mine corrected me and told me it was Mises. So Ludwig von Mises, like I love Mises to pieces. Sylvester the cat, if any of you remember. There is no means of avoiding the final collapse of a boom brought about by credit expansion. The alternative is only whether the crisis should come sooner as a result of voluntary abandonment of further credit expansion or later as final and total catastrophe of the currency system involved. Very much true. This is kind of what we're seeing right now. There's no avoiding this collapse. In fact, is this it? The market looked like it was taking a pretty a good dump today. Everything across the board, even precious metals got hit a tiny bit. Not that much, and surely not the slaughter that we've seen with cryptos and equity markets. Let's get into that here in a moment. Meanwhile, a couple things I want to point out. Sorry for these late uploads. Because here's my issue right here. I've got some issues with our online connection here. Downloads are really slow for us. We should be getting uploads more like 100 megabytes per second. We're down to 6.83. So I do apologize for the last week or two. We've had some issues. Xfinity is going to come out and supposedly fix that. And before I get to spot prices too, I want to thank, I see I got a couple new followers out here. We're out on Getter now, Gettr. Might go on Twitter too, just trying to expand our footprint out there to reach more local people here in South Florida. And we are on GATR at the moment. And I'm going to start posting some things. As you can see, I posted this morning, reliable sources. So the Bank of America got suckered into crashing silver markets last year by JPMorgan, both at risk of losing billions. Stay tuned with my videos to learn more. Again, on GATR, and our name is Gold, Silver, Coins. I think I'm also going to probably, again, go on Twitter, maybe a couple other forums except for Facebook, who I got a bad taste in my mouth for what they did to me, those bastards anyways. Let's take a look at spot prices here. And we're going to get into all that stuff. As I said, a couple graphs, gata.org, Zero Hedge, and some suggested reading I can give you as well. Then we'll get into Butler's thoughts on what is actually going on with Bank of America, JPMorgan, and that. And he's got some really cool stuff to talk about. So, or that he does talk about, I'm sorry. And let's see what's happening this morning. Yeah, we've seen some downs here, but it makes me suspicious. Again, we've got almost all sectors across the board are taking a big dive at the moment, and that includes, well, precious metals are not really taking a dive. We're still at our above our 200-day moving average, which is far better than anything else is doing out there right now that I'm aware of. And silver getting a little bit trash, but still not too bad. High 23s, kind of what we expected. We'll look at the 24-hour charts and see what crooked COMEX market this may have occurred on. And look at platinum too, closer to that $1,000 mark, but still hanging on there. As far as all the financial sectors and commodity sectors out there, I think I saw one other commodity doing well this morning. That was corn. Don't ask me why, but corn was doing good as well. Don't even ask me why I looked at that, but I saw corn was in the green. Everything else seems to be in the red right now, even in metals. As I said, 2008, the financial collapse that we had, we basically saw precious metals get trashed just as much. A little bit less, it took a little delay, but they did fall. But the problem was, and here's my concern, if these markets do crash in a 2008 similar style, but again, this is the greatest bubble of all time, so it'll be 2008 times 10, maybe even greater, tough to say, in my opinion. Will we also see precious metals take that, not physical, because physical, when metals take a dive, physical is impossible to find. The only thing you can find is paper gold, paper silver, and paper platinum. In 2008, that's exactly what happened. Gold, silver, and platinum went down. I mean, it really got pretty much hammered in the paper markets. However, you could not buy the real gold or silver or platinum without paying a huge premium. Mind you, gold, I forget what it was, forgive me, but $700-800 an ounce or something at the time in 2008. I could look it up, and I may be wrong. I'm just taking a stab at it. I know it was much lower. But just to make a point here, premiums on gold eagles were like $200 over at $700-800 gold. Think about that. Even in 2020, when gold was sitting at that almost that $2,000 mark, $1,700, $1,800, eagles were $200 over. So eagles were $200 over when gold was half the price. So can you imagine what will happen if this gold and silver and platinum markets tank? You're going to have a very hard time buying any kind of real product out there. And when you do find it, if it's similar to the 2008 crisis, you're going to find that delayed deliveries are going to be like anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months out. But again, let's see what happens here. This may not play out the same way it did in 2008. So let's look at the highs and lows here. 1830 is the low, 1844 is the high. So we've kind of bounced back above that high, and like I said, we'll look at the 24-hour chart. And silver, 2368. We have a low of 2360 and a high of 2433. Quite the range there, 64 cents. A little bit what I am noticing is that the silver market is rebounding every time that it does get monkey hammered down. There's your first monkey hammer of the day, folks. So every time it does get monkey hammered down, this is typical. So you do see these 50-cent swings, 60-cent swings, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like, again, a low of 2360, high of 2433, that we bounced off this low for the day. Where the damage occurs, again, we'll look at the 24-hour chart, and that'll tell us what time it occurred, not necessarily what market it occurred in, and we'll discuss that as well, as we always do. Platinum at 1,015, like I said, 1,006. That is a pretty, that's almost nearing that sub-$1,000 mark, but again, hangs on. High 1042.92, and currently sitting at 1,015. But I kind of expected this. I looked this morning, I said, wow, equities, the futures markets are getting hammered, and then the market opens and that gets hammered. Cryptos are getting hammered all week, I mean, big time. And I'm not a big fan of cryptos as far as I don't invest in them, and this is exactly the reason why. Too volatile, too much like a casino to me. And now that it's regulated, it's full of whales that are willing to stick hodlers holding the bag. They throw the hodlers under the bus. That's exactly what's happening in cryptos with all the people that supported them in the past. Well, let's take a look at the 24-hour charts and see where we're going. Look at that. Palladium's not doing bad though. $36 up. Too bad nobody buys it for investment purposes in bars. Well, let's take a look at I'm going to do a quick refresh here. Here's your kit code 24-hour charts. I kind of like these. They track the last 3 market days, which would have been obviously Thursday and Friday, and then the opening today. Again, flat line last night during closings of the market. Well, hold on a second. That's Friday, I'm sorry. Let's take a look at green, which is today. So last night, it looks like, there's our last night markets. It looks like markets kind of swung all over the place, kind of a little bit up to the 1836 level, and then this morning 1838, and bumping up to 1842, and then lo and behold, where is the monkey hammer occur? There's your fourth monkey hammer. For those of you that take shots every time I say monkey hammer, you just had your 5th shot. Let's see here. So we're sitting at currently this 1830 range. So it looks like, and it's pretty obvious, that most of this downward activity occurred in the New York NYMEX markets. Again, take a look. New York up a little bit in the morning, probably around 9 o'clock or something like that, and then the thrashing begins. However, I expect, it's tough to say what pulled this market down directly. It's very possible that again, if the equity markets bleed out, and we're going to take a look here. They were pretty bad a little while ago. I think it was as low as the Dow was down minus 700 or something, which is pretty catastrophic, actually. Is this the time? Is this it? Are we in our major market crash, the greatest bubble of all time? tough to say. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm well situated with a commodity that seems to be holding its own versus all the others at the moment. Let's take a look at the 24-hour chart here and do a quick refresh here. Okay, there we go. 24-hour spot price bid. As far as silver goes, well, you can pretty much see that it started last night. Again, is this the typical monkey hammering we see done by big commercial entities out there trying to manipulate the markets downward? And if it was most likely done in the Globex markets with silver, because that's where they do it at. Again, in my opinion, these graphs can tell you what time it happened, what markets were open, but they don't necessarily show you where the trades were done, whether it was London, whether it was New York Globex, when you see this slide downward right here. I suspect that, again, my opinion is that London is primarily a gold trade center. It's not really known for its silver trades. Maybe it is, but I'm not familiar with that, and I might be speaking up my ass a little bit. And if I am, tell me so in comments below. But New York Globex is where I have typically seen the monkey hammering in silver. And really, New York Globex markets is a 24-hour market owned by Crimex, or Comex as we know them. I call them Crimex because that's my opinion. What they're doing is a crime. What they're allowing to happen is a crime. But is this anticipation of markets falling? Is this people taking money out of gold and silver to hit margin calls or to make sure that they're covered for margin? I don't know. Tough to say. Is this people just kind of rolling out of gold and silver positions and into cash right now? Tough to say, but I suspect, based on the timing here in New York Globex markets, that this is probably monkey hammering. And who would want to monkey hammer silver and gold markets? I would ask yourself that question. Well, I'll tell you who. People that probably owe a large amount of silver back to JPMorgan. This gets back to this Bank of America potentiality, where Bank of America has probably most likely, according to Ted Butler, who I respect immensely, has bought this huge short position of gold and silver and gold now. That's the new speculation by Mr. Butler, and he's probably correct, because I think he's one of the smartest guys out there when it comes to reading these reports and such. Let me take a quick sip of coffee here as well. One sec. So, who would want to buy back all that silver that they bought from JPMorgan? Well, I think it's Bank of America. And we're going to get into a very interesting topic about that. And as you know, that's kind of what we've thumbnailed the show about today. But again, take a look with this. This likely happened in thinly traded Globex markets overnight, where they can knock the bids down on silver and maybe try to accumulate back at what Ted Butler speculates is their $23 average. Because who out there owes JPM the most silver out there? It's Bank of America, we believe, and gold too. I think Ted Butler spotted this big gold whale that walked into this market. I forget exactly when, but he identified the big gold whale. He thought it was Paulson, I believe, but now he's kind of come to the understanding that it is more than likely Bank of America that's done this. And as I said, if I was going to trust anybody to make an educated guess and speculate on what is actually going on with JP, Bank of America, these monkey-hammered markets and COMEX, it's Ted Butler. I give him a lot of credit here, and there's some folks that may not agree with all that credit, but I don't think I'm ignorant or I'm ignorant on some things like everyone else is, but I don't think I'm a dumb person. I think I can understand these things, and Mr. Butler nails it. And has so far. I think he's been spot on. A lot of other people have taken credit for what he talks about. In fact, their YouTube videos are all part of that as well. Let's take a look at 24-hour spot prices here. We're done with that. And here's what we're going to move into. Let's take a look at equity markets. Wow. Wow. I didn't even expect that. In fact, wow. Okay. Dow Jones down 900 points. Now, wow. God, that got me by surprise. S&P 144, NASDAQ 538 points. Oh boy, here we go. And gold up a penny. Oh, well, that explains a lot, folks. It's really surprising. And cryptos, we're going to take a look at that in a moment, but it doesn't look very promising. In fact, it looks very dismal for equities and the newly created crypto markets, the newly created casino, I should say, the crypto markets. Let's take a look at, man, I got to look at this one more time. This is like, you don't see this very often here. Wow, okay. I don't know where this is going at the end of the day. I wonder if the presidential plunge protection team is going to step in and inject a lot of money into this market right now. By the way, if you don't know who that is, just look it up, the plunge protection team. A lot of folks don't realize it, but the government does interject large volumes of cash into markets occasionally to support them under the guise of national security. Good subject and something we're not going to talk about today, but feel free to look it up. Wow, yeah, across the board, man, this is just cryptos have been hemorrhaging. And you know, I don't want to bang on cryptos because I really feel sorry for the hodlers out there that have gotten screwed by the big investors that have come into cryptos and the the original hodlers out there. Except for the billionaires, they've probably cashed out their position at 60,000 smartly. Most of them have at least. But the people, hodlers, I would say, that have been told just to hold this stuff over and over, just to hold it. It's like gold. It's like gold, man. It's like, hold it, hold it. There's only so much of it. It'll be super. I think they overestimated it. And for people that put any of their real wealth into this, I do feel bad. I do feel for them. I really do. Let's take a look at the 1 year, up 4.84%. All that gain lost in such a short period of time. Look at the monthly chart here. That's just a downward slope. And it ain't pretty, folks. I think we're going to see sub 30 on this stuff, pretty sure. 1 week, tough to say where it goes too. This will destroy a lot of confidence, especially in people that were thinking about investing in that. It'll also destroy confidence of people that have gotten in at the highs and hodlers that have taken this spiel and now have been screwed by the big financial whales in Wall Street. But you should have expected it. We've been talking about this for a long time. Anyways, man, I can't help but go look at this again. Let me do a quick refresh. That is refreshed. We kind of stabled that at minus 900 right now. This is not even an equity show, and I'm kind of amazed at this. Wow. And we're not seeing it in gold and silver, which is a good thing, man. Remember I told you, not a lot of volatility in precious metals, and it's mostly about wealth preservation. You got to feel good about that right now. Let's take a look at GATA.org. This is kind of where we're going, and let me just read this real quick. The case for digital gold unravels. Again, GATA.org, one of my favorite sites out there. They do run some really good articles, but they talk about the gold manipulation, who the players are, how they screw everything. If you don't have GATA.org in your bookmark bar like I do up here, then you are really not truly informed about what is potentially happening out there as far as monkey hammering and manipulation. Ted Butler, good, they just updated this. This is something we're talking about this. I didn't see this, but however, it plays into exactly, without me having to show you Ted Butler's subscription. I'm a subscriber of Mr. Butler, by the way, but let's take a read here and see what GATA's assessment is of what Butler just came out with. This is really breaking news. JPMorgan must have tricked Bank of America into shorting so much gold and silver. Silver market analyst Ted Butler writes today that Bank of America has taken what seems huge short positions in gold and silver because the bank was tricked in some way by bullion bank JPMorgan and Chase. Butler writes, wow, I was very interesting. I didn't really want to read some of this stuff to you because it is proprietary, or it is a subscription in Ted Butler's, and I respect him enough not to start reading his subscription stuff. But however, they're quoting it here in GATA.org, so we'll quote it as well and look at where that original quote comes from. And Butler writes, and GATA.org quotes, "No one, no matter how dumb or misinformed, would do such a thing after careful and objective due diligence. There's no way BofA senior manager woke up one day and decided to put the organization in potential harm's way by borrowing and selling short gold and silver in the quantities I have claimed. It had to be tricked in some ways. But what if the gold and silver positions attributed to the banks are not their own at all, but the positions of an entity less concerned about risk, like an entity authorized to create and dispense money in infinite amounts?" See, this is where GATA.org and Ted Butler probably separate in their opinions. I'm just reading this fresh, but it doesn't surprise me. I thought we'd kind of run into this kind of thing. GATA.org's contention in this case is that Ted Butler really hasn't seen definitive proof of the governments involved in knocking these markets down, and particularly silver. I don't think he would. I have my doubts with GATA.org that governments would knock down the price of silver. However, GATA makes a wonderful case when it comes to the price of gold, why governments or central banks would want the price of gold to be down. Greenspan talks about that as well many, many years ago, or who was, not Greenspan. Yeah, Greenspan. So that is, and what GATA.org talks about here on the manipulations, I do concur with. I believe this does happen, but when it comes to silver, I don't think they know that silver market as much as Ted Butler does. And again, that's not dissing them. However, GATA.org here is assuming that, hang on one second, that it is a government entity. And let me read on from what they say. This is GATA saying this. What if the banks hold such astounding positions because they are only brokers for entity or entities far larger, like a government? After all, the gold and silver futures market in the United States, operated by CME Group, are actually designed for secret government intervention via what CME Group calls its central bank incentive program. This is all valid right here, under which governments and central banks and their agents receive volume discounts for trading all major future contracts. So it's far less likely that Bank of America has been tricked here. Again, I don't necessarily agree with that. I've got to kind of go with Ted Butler when I'm kind of, I like both, I like Ted Butler a lot. I think he understands the silver manipulation far better than GATA.org does. However, Ted Butler has clearly said in the past that he hasn't seen nor looked for government intervention. That's not what he does. He is an expert at spotting the bankers, the individual investors, or the entities that do this monkey hammering, and he explains how. He understands the COT reports. He understands the numbers. He's got a really great insight on it. So I'm going to give this to him as far as facts go. The facts are that it is definitely banks doing this. These are the facts. It's speculation by GATA.org that it is government intervention, at least for the silver markets. Now, as far as the gold markets, I think GATA.org has provided good evidence. It has been, but these two are, but I believe GATA.org and Ted Butler, or who writes these articles, I think Chris Powell and Ted Butler, or not Ted Butler, but I think Chris Powell has a little thing. He's got some idea that maybe, I don't know. There's a little tension going on here. And again, as far as the silver manipulation goes, as far as what the facts show, I'm going to go with Ted Butler on this. But again, I don't discount, and I do believe that GATA is right about gold interventions for sure. Well, let's go on. Let's see what else has got going on here in GATA.org, because that article just popped up. India plans, who is a large consumer of gold for jewelry purposes, and the misnomer jewelry, I don't even like using that word. Most Americans and Europeans and Westerners confuse jewelry purchases with like what we would wear for our vanity. Jewelry purchases in India and a lot of other Eastern and not third world, but other countries, that wasn't nice to say, are consumers of gold, not for jewelry purposes, but for investment and, wealth preservation. Not even investment, wealth preservation. India buys, the women and men of India buy gold jewelry not for vanity, not to wear around because it'd probably get robbed or stolen. And they do wear it at weddings, but they do it for wealth preservation, okay? And they're buying, when they buy jewelry, it doesn't have a 10-time markup or a 5-time markup. When they're buying jewelry, it's usually crudely made, and it's got a small markup like 5 or 10% or something like that. But anyways, that's the deal with that, and it looks like they're in India. The government is trying to con them into to put their money into a gold savings account. Oh, what nonsense. The Indian people are too smart for that, for sure. The case for digital gold unravels as Bitcoin plunges deepens. This is the article I wanted you to read to you in a little bit. We'll get back into the Ted Butler thing, by the way. That's pretty fascinating stuff. I'm going to show you, since GATA already kind of copied what he said, I'm going to show you what Ted Butler said in his own words, and you can read it from the horse's mouth. The case for digital gold unravels as Bitcoin plunge deepens. Let's take a look here, and this is in Bloomberg News. Again, GATA doesn't write all this stuff. They do a lot of links to different things that are involved with gold, silver, and platinum, so that's why I like to read it. And let's just click. You know what? I'm not going to give Bloomberg a click because they suck. Let's just read it here. The case for digital gold unravels as Bitcoin plunge deepens. I said this 3 times already. The argument Bitcoin is a form of digital gold is falling apart. as the largest cryptocurrency slips to 38,000. Now, mind you, folks, it's even like 34 now. I mean, this is hemorrhaging we got going on over the last couple of days. And I was surprised to see it. I thought that at least it might stay stable when everything else crashed, but that's not the case. The volatility of cryptos is rearing its ugly head. And again, when the whales cash out, they leave the hodlers, the small hodlers behind holding the bag. And I'm sorry, that's what's happening. They're leaving you hodlers behind holding the bag. Don't ride it all the way down. That's my opinion again. Let's take a look here. 10 with risk assets. Its decline in 10 with risk assets such as tech stocks is casting a shadow on the long-touted similarity to gold. And I have always been passionately against anyone that, not against, but against the argument that there's any comparison between gold and cryptos. There is none, folks, none whatsoever. Gold doesn't have that volatility, obviously, and gold has been around for 5,000 years. There's no similarity between the two, all right? And as far as history goes, gold has a history as wealth preservation. Cryptos do not at all right? Maybe another couple decades they'll have some credibility as far as a timestamp and a resume, but they don't right now. Cryptocurrencies have plunged alongside equities in a rocky start of the year amid tighter than expected monetary policy where gold, often heralded as a store of value, and it is, thank you very much, Bloomberg, and an inflation hedge, which it is, thank you, Bloomberg, has steadily traded upward this month at 0.3%. Gold tends to be low volatility instrument. Yes, correct. Boy, it's actually nice to see Bloomberg write something correct about gold for once. And the quote, and the people they quote are usually idiots too, don't know shit about gold. Gold tends to be low volatility instrument according to Steve Sosnick, chief strategist at Interactive Brokers LLC. Meanwhile, cryptocurrencies continue to demonstrate unpredictable price swings. Bitcoin has declined 17% since the start of January. Wow. A 17% decrease in gold would be, wow, what would gold be at right now? 15 something at that? So 170, wow, 340, oh, lower than that even, my gosh. So right now I'd argue that gold year to date is one of your, that's interesting too. And hey, kudos to Mr. Sosnick at Interactive Brokers for saying, right now I'd argue that gold year to date is one of your best performing assets. Exactly, folks, especially in these times when everything is kind of falling apart. Lots of good stuff here on GATA.org, and as I said, if you don't have it on your bookmark bar, you really don't have a real clue of what's going on as far as the manipulation goes in gold markets. Silver markets, I'd follow Ted Butler for now, but let's see. Let's see what GATA comes out with as direct evidence of the manipulation of silver markets by governments. We'll see. I think they put a very good case for gold. Let's take a look at the United States Misery Index. I can't help but keep looking at this. It's really cool. Biden's numbers just came in recently as well. Pretty grim looking as we expect. This just shows only, the Misery Index is made up of unemployment and inflation. That's kind of the two categories they use. And let's just look at inflation. I took out the unemployment rate, and let's see where inflation happens. These are the early years right here. However, let's get into where we saw major inflation. Where did Nixon take us off the gold standard and said we're finally Keynesians all now, and the Federal Reserve and central banks just started endlessly printing money? Well, here you go, right here. Look, there's a start taking us off the gold standard. There's your start of inflation right there. Dips back a little bit, jumps up, and what do we got here? We got Ford, where you're seeing excessively higher. It never kind of quite goes away. This is a transitioning period away from being backed by gold to a fiat currency. And you see what that looks like right here? Here is major inflation really kicking in because they were starting to crank up the machines, really, the printing presses. We're in a very tough situation, also oil crisis, all this stuff back then. So take a look at Carter, man. I think we're seeing a very similar situation with Joe Biden. And again, black swan events would be the Critter 19, which is being used as an excuse, but I'm starting to more believe that Critter 19 closures were more based on some bad financial economic stuff they knew was going to happen coming up in 2020, and they felt that maybe to slow the hemorrhaging, they shut down the coal economy, but that's my conspiracy. That's a conspiracy by me, folks. Shh, might be true, though. Let's take a look at some other stuff going on here. And Biden, man, take a look at this. Inflation rates very low for many decades. Let's see. Biden's sitting at a 4.69 right now. Let's see who had a higher inflation rate in the last 20 years, 30 years. We're going back in time. Here's the history. Here's the time machine. All right, we're getting back to the last time we saw rates like that was in the realm of Bush. And that's Daddy Bush Sr. Remember, 1,000 points of light? And the gentleman that proved that you cannot be reelected during a recession, depression. It's very hard. Incumbents have a very hard time getting reelected if the economy is real bad. And I think you're going to see some similar, wow, take a look at that. I think you're going to see some similar things here. Bush inherited, and again, you can't always blame the president that's in charge. A lot of this stuff is just, can come back from 5 or 10 years ago from stupid decisions we made back in 2008, for example. Things have gotten nothing but worse. So you can't always blame the current administration, even though they all are to blame because they changed nothing, they fixed nothing. So take a look at that, G.H. Bush. But look at this. Biden's first quarter, 4.69, stepping out of the gate. Even Trump had the inflation down on a handle on that at 1.24. Man, this is why that unfortunately, what am I saying? Unfortunately, unfortunately, none of them do anything about anything. Even Trump inherited this right here. Did he inherit from Obama? No, probably not. Inherit from Bush? No, I don't know. It goes down the line, folks. And again, none of these presidents fixed anything per se. Economically, financially, none of these presidents I would call fiscally responsible. Let's see. Who would? I mean, they could have called Reagan fiscally responsible, and I think probably to some extent that might be true, but all he did was increase money for the war machine as well. So really, what do you got there? All right, I'm getting out of my element here. Let's get back to precious metals and talk about gold versus real yields, the narrative of the press and the narrative of ignorant folks that aren't familiar with what real yields really mean and how they attribute, how they go along with gold. The truth is yeah, if yields were well above the inflation rate and you could stick your money and get a return and guarantee that you're getting your money back as well, that's pretty tasty stuff there. Why wouldn't you do that? And the truth of the matter is that the official inflation rates, gold versus real yields. So the real yields based on official rates are so skewed, it's not even funny. Official inflation rates are what, 7 or 8% right now, I think. I think the long-term rate is estimated at 2.5%. Well, anyway, take a look at treasuries here, and currently real 10-year treasury yields based on official data are negative 0.59%. A 50 basis point increase in these rates would basically put it at just a little bit below making some real money. Again, a real yield. But take a look at the price of gold. Even though the yields are increasing to some degree, and we're not in positive yields yet, but even though they're increasing, you're still seeing the price of gold go up, which brings up the false narrative that the government is going to be, even if they raise it to the point where it's got like a 1% yield above the inflation rate, the official inflation rate. The truth is, we know it's not a real inflation rate. We know it's much higher than that. So when you start out with skewed numbers, when you start out with incorrect numbers like the current CPI and the PPE, PPI, I'm sorry, I forget which one. My mind went blank there for a second. You really can't say that gold is going to underperform unless people truly believe those inflation numbers. And the thing is, even the people that spew this bullshit now don't really believe the official inflation numbers. They don't. I mean, even the financial talking heads on corporate news don't believe it. So it's pretty much common knowledge that the numbers are skewed when it comes to that. So if those numbers are skewed, then obviously real yield numbers are skewed, and would take a tremendous amount of increase in interest rates to get yields up to a point where they could even compete with gold on any level, okay? And it ain't happening, number one, because first off, that would cause default on loans, government loans. The economy just couldn't take it at the moment. Even though, sincerely, I believe the best thing to do right now by the Fed, if they were really looking out for everyone's interest, is tighten up the money supply, raise interest rates, create the pain right now before it's too late, probably though. All right, I digress. Let's look at some other things. What's going on out in the world of society, economics, politics? Nothing really good. Take a look at this. This is good for the price of gold and silver too. It's about wealth preservation primarily, folks. And people tend to latch on to things that have a good track record like gold and silver. People know gold and silver has been around for thousands of years. Even young people in movies see that the bad guys covet gold, from 100 years ago. So they know it's been around for a long time. Everyone does. Wealth preservation, and it's good to have wealth preservation, in my opinion, in times of dark outlooks. NBC poll reveals most Americans think country is going downhill and is lost. It's funny that people have even noticed that, so it's nice to see people are actually noticing that the country's going downhill, but it's been going downhill for decades. We've allowed this to happen through apathy and just trusting that, when most people vote, they have no clue who they're even voting for. They like the name, they saw the guy on TV, their favorite news channel told them this guy's good or the other guy sucks. Nobody spends real time looking into this stuff, and that's why we're in the trouble we are. Nobody spends real time questioning the candidates. No one spends any real time looking at what the candidates really are about and looking at their track record and history. They don't. They have short attention spans when it comes to politics. And listen, I can't blame you. It sucks. It's pretty boring, but you know what? So does emptying the garbage, and if you don't empty the garbage, you're going to have your house filled up with a pile full of garbage here. But let's see. This is kind of good to hear. It's nice to see people out there talking the truth, and that's what they're doing, in my opinion. Nothing good when it comes to war with Russia. I don't know why this administration. Well, they have that Russia through the 2016 elections narrative. That's what this administration is. And since then, they've become so anti-Russian that they've raised the specter of another Cold War, nuclear wars, more people dying, sending your kids to die in some other place, other kids dying. Look at Yemen as well. Really, this administration did nothing to stop wars, to reduce the amount of conflicts, and all kinds of stuff. Well, I could go on about that, but what does this have to do with gold and silver? It's all good for gold and silver, and I hate to say that. I got mixed feelings about saying that, but when these idiots do this kind of stuff and create more attention and more war and create a new Cold War, this is good for gold and silver. Not good for our country, not good for the world. But again, these are the idiots that we chose to lead us, okay? I think come election, worldwide, states, country, you name it, all over the world, there needs to be a big reckoning, in my opinion. And not too much to talk about. I think, let's see here. Rate hike odds slide as stocks puke. Go figure, right? Well, they're trying to guess what the Fed's going to do. You know what? I think the Fed's going to raise the rates. Again, meaningless. It's meaningless. It really is, but it's going to have an impact on markets because these people are not too smart, in my opinion. Let's see here. VIX term struck inverts most since. Yep, wouldn't surprise me. And what else is going on here? Well, we're reading the same stuff. Again, what an idiot this guy is. What a war hawk. I have no respects for war hawks, none at all. War hawks, you don't let them make decisions, political decisions. You don't let war hawks determine whether you go to war. You know what you do with war hawks? You put them on the battlefield. So you take this guy, you stick a helmet on him, and if he wants to throw wars and be pro-war and send your kids off to die in some battle, he should be the first one running out of the trenches, or the first one leading the way in the first airplane. All right, my opinion. Again, I'm getting a little off track here. This guy's an idiot, in my opinion, as well. And all right, let me get out of here. But what do idiots have to do with the price of gold and silver? Well, it's good for the price of gold and silver. Idiots will just screw things up worse. They don't fix anything. It's like these people right here, like these people. They just double down on stupid, folks. Trust me on this. Well, they don't fix it. They don't apologize. They just double down on stupid. And that's what we got working for us all over the world now. Doubling down on stupid, not fixing shit. This is homework. This is really kind of a great article I like to always, one of the things I've been talking about is I'm learning along with you. So when I'm doing these reports, I'm looking for things to talk about. I'm reading things. I'm bringing out what I read. And I think this is all supportive as far as the price of gold and silver goes as well, because it makes you more alert to your surroundings. And if you're more alert to your surroundings, you're more likely to see that comment about to hit Earth. And that kind of leads into this article. I'm not going to read it to you, but it's based on a new Netflix movie too, Don't Look Up. But the article is excellent. If you want to be smarter than the average bear and smarter than your neighbor, which is probably not hard to do, only teasing, your neighbor probably feels the same way. So my neighbor does, I'm sure. But if you want to be smarter than the average bear, this is a great website. And I'm not giving you homework, because who likes homework? I'm just giving you reading suggestions. Read Don't Look Up, the allegory we've been waiting for. It's in AIER. There's also a lot of great articles on here too. As I said, if you want to get away from biased, bullshit corporate narratives, this is a really great website with a lot of different opinions and thoughts. And it's free. It's free, man. And I encourage you to donate if you like sites that you're reading for free. This way we can keep them around for a little while. All right, let's get into Ted Butler. I was a little nervous about maybe showing you this because, again, I respect people's writings. I respect what they do for a living. Ted Butler does write and get paid for his writings and subscriptions, but it looks like GATA.org just kind of let that cat out of the bag. And I'm not sure what the legalities or what the morality, not the morality, but but I'm comfortable with kind of showing you what he indeed did say, not what GATA.org kind of alluded that he said here. And Mr. Butler, if you're watching this, you see this, you know that I have great respect for you. So again, for what it's worth too, I encourage folks to, if you're a talking head on YouTube and you just happen to be watching my video, you're a talking head like me in precious metals, you really need to get a subscription to Ted Butler. And I know there's a few talking heads, big YouTubers out there that watch my videos. So definitely, I'd suggest highly that you get a Bank of America, the Ted Butler subscription. It's worth the little bit of money that you'll spend on it, especially if you want to know what's going on in silver markets. But let me continue here. And I'm a subscriber to Ted Butler as well. Ted Butler said this, and again, this was already quoted by GATA.org, and I'm just quoting what they've already kind of quoted. I continue to believe Bank of America was duped in its current predicament of being short 30 million ounces. So let's move on here. As to who did the hoodwinking of BofA, you should know by now the only possible answer is JPMorgan, which happens to be the only entity of such a feat. And he's chronicled how JPM accumulated the 1.2 billion ounces of physical silver and 30 million ounces of physical gold. And this is something Ted believes, is that he now believes that JPMorgan has duped Bank of America into buying this gold and silver. All right. They seem to be, and again, it's speculative on Ted's part, but if I trusted anyone with an educated opinion of what was really going on, it would be Mr. Butler, okay? So Mr. Butler clearly states that he believes that the Bank of America was duped in his recent January 22nd Mystery Solved article here, that he believes that Bank of America was duped by JPMorgan. They were duped into getting, and they haven't done this before. This is kind of new. So if this is true, if Ted Butler's thoughts are true here, this would explain why 2021 sucked so badly for gold and silver when everything else should have been doing well. Because what happened is JP conned Bank of America into buying 800 million ounces of silver and maybe, 30 million ounces of gold or something like that, and dumping it back into the market last year. This is what they've been accused of, or this is what, not accused of, but this is the speculation and that would explain why, and it's physical, it wasn't COMEX, it was derivatives. So basically Bank of America borrowed real physical silver from JP, sold it into the marketplace. That would have caused last year's markets just to take in so much gold and silver physical. That would have explained the big down prices and the depression we saw last year in the precious metals, where everything else across the board was up and metals should have been up as well. That would really explain it very well, in my opinion. And the second thing that Mr. Butler brings up is that it is very possible that JPMorgan, when Bank of America went to sell this silver and gold, guess who bought it up? Another wing of JPMorgan. And So isn't that weird, setting up another bank and then setting yourself up to be the buyer of the same silver and gold you just sold them? So now your holdings are even more. Now they're kind of scrambling. Bank of America is scrambling to probably buy gold and silver, and that's probably why you're seeing these markets gyrate so much here lately and then snap back up. That's probably BOA trying to hammer these markets down to buy at the lows. But again, that is purely speculation on my part, so I can't say that's true. But Mr. Butler clearly points out if this is the scenario, then JP is the greatest criminal mastermind of all, in my opinion, in his opinion, being able to pull that off. They were able to keep that gold and silver by buying it back from the same people they sold it to, who still owe them gold and silver. So if Bank of America has to buy back that gold and silver from the very same people they bought it from, this gets convoluted. Wow, that was a brilliant freaking plan by master criminals. And again, in my opinion, I think they are criminal. I think JPMorgan is too big to fail, too big to jail, but they should definitely, a lot of them should be behind bars for sure. And if this is the case, wow, they should be discredited and dissolved, in my opinion. But again, too big to jail, too big to fail. So keep following this, man. This is going to kind of roll out here. I think there's some truth to what Mr. Butler's talking about. I hope he doesn't disappear. So just joking. Well, I think that's really about it. Make sure you also catch me on Reddit. We're on Reddit as well, and we post out there under the name Because. You can see there, right there. There I am, Because. I don't post much comment out there, mostly the videos, but I'll probably start commenting more out there as well. And like I said, don't forget our GATTR site, which is gold and silver coins, and I'm going to be getting on some other sites as well. Thank you for watching Friday's video, which we are in the waiting place. And let me see if I can find any comments here. Newest comment first. I'm going to go down here and see what I can find. Sorry about that. Don't mean to make you dizzy by scrolling down. Close your eyes for those of you that get motion sickness. And thanks for all of you that watch here. I want to acknowledge all these folks here. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And let's see here. Mr. Hall, that silver is more rare than gold. Absolutely. And let me see if there's any questions that were kind of pertinent to what we talked about. As I said, I'd like to acknowledge everybody that watches my videos and comments especially. Russia is banning cryptocurrency. I guess that's what's going on this week. Bitcoin is only one crypto. I'm not sure. I don't think that Russia deal happened a little while ago, and they didn't ban it, my understanding. They just were starting to say that it wasn't going to be able to operate in their system. It's kind of, I don't think that's it, Chris. The bankers just want to buy, I believe that's cheap. I think they want to buy your gold. I think Bank of America wants to buy back their silver cheap. I don't see that happening, though. Why would JP do that to Bank of America, too? Mr. Butler clearly points out to damage the competition as well. Let's take a look. Key West Pelagic Coins and Collectibles. Ooh, that'd be a cool name for a shop in the Keys. Short-term crypto is bearish. Restrictive legislation, cost of power for mining, inaccessible through communication. Fear taking over from greed now. Major collapse correction due. Yes, sir, St. Stephen, you are correct there. This is also a 10-year buy and bury it. Bankster manipulation playing 2-day. Not sure about that. I don't think we've seen our bottom yet, but we'll see, St. Stephen. And thanks for commenting. Hey, Joey, what's up? Appreciate that. Yeah, I'd certainly invite them. I'm not sure how to do it, but technically I'm pretty inept. Let's see what else we got going on out here. Has everything to do with control. That is absolutely true. Thanks for watching JP's Walters. Looks like Walmart. Yeah, good luck with Walmart. And hey, thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that. That is super nice to see. And definitely come down to New York, but certainly don't bring any of those commies down with you. we don't like them down here in Florida. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Any thoughts? No, I don't know anything about trading currency. I know I've had people ask me about dinars and zims and stuff, but I suspect anybody that's bought that stuff has probably lost money. Who knows? Not my specialty. Hey, nice to see you commenting Last Living Cowboy, and I appreciate that. Old Cowboy. Keisha, correlation between market and precious metals seem no longer exist. For decades, the markets went down, metals went up. That changed more than 10 years ago. We're having a market crash now. Step down, which will cycle down in stages, recover, and then fall again. I kind of see, I think that is my opinion as well. I think maybe central banks, Wall Street, and government, which is doubtful, I don't know what government did, but have learned from their mistakes in 2008. They know that this market's going to go down. They don't want it to do it overnight. They'll probably interject and do it in steps. But again, let's see what happens. Are we in those stages yet? I don't know. Yep, metal prices will rise. Found this today. Only gold and silver will survive a monthly collapse. Gold up to 100%. Yep, absolutely true. And again, thanks for some very, very astute and intelligent comments there. Thank you, Akish. I appreciate that. Bobcat B, would you like to see a gradual rise before moving higher? Grabbing my weekly ounces tomorrow. Yep. I don't know, man. I'll take any rise I can get right now, but gradual rises are better in my opinion. When you see them go straight up like that, you got to worry that they're going to come straight down like that. Gold and silver hasn't had that volatility, fortunately, compared to other things. Thanks, Matos. I appreciate that. I have to really think to be able to buy the physical back for cheaper. Does BOA? Don't know about that. I'll answer more of that later, and we'll find out as we go. Too many crypto bots. Oh, yeah, by the way, I had a lot of crypto bots in our comment section. Man, I don't know how YouTube doesn't really do much to get away from them. It's almost like a full-time job getting rid of them bastards. We try our best, though. Sorry about that. Then it must occur. Yep, can't argue with that. Watch the current dateline lines. All that silver, 2 tons at center of a murder plot. And I didn't see that. I'm going to have to look up that, Tanya, so appreciate that. ISIS, thank you. What is my premium for 1 ounce? I think it's around $90 is what we get for them. You should be able to buy them for $80, $90 over, no more. Donald says you're correct. Cash, debt money. Yep, big problems we got going on here, folks. Thanks for watching, Don. And you as well, Howard. See what's going on here. No other questions to answer. Well, you know what? Next to giving my theme for the year, my meme for the year, my quote for the year, think for yourself and always question authority, folks. This is Timothy Leary. And may I add also, always question yourself as well, because whose narrative is in your brain? Is it really yours? Is it someone else's, or is it another entity's that's kind of planted it there? So question yourself as well. Well, that's it. This is Brian Kuzmar. I've been in this location since 1995. I'm a brick and mortar dealer only, so if you're looking to order stuff through the mail for me, I'm sorry we don't do that. You got to pick it up in person. We're open 10 to 4 Mondays through Fridays. If you don't live in my area, I highly recommend that you find yourself a good local dealer and keep that money local because it's important, folks, especially in these times. And again, if you don't have one in your town, you may have to drive an hour or two. Even keep it in your state at the very least. We recommend you deal local. And it's better. We advertise to beat APMEX, JM, and SD Bullion. We can beat their reasonable products pretty easily because we don't have their overhead, number one, and we have availability to the same products they do and sometimes even cheaper. And we have good availability as well. So if you're looking for anything, you live in South Florida, I'm your man. We're your people. And again, we're here 10 to 4 Mondays through Fridays. If you don't live in my area, and you got any questions or anything, even if you don't live in my area and you can't do business with me, you got questions, please put them in the comments section. You see I do my best to answer them. Can't promise I always do, but I do my best. Well, and even better, find yourself a good local dealer. Hey, well, thanks for watching, folks. That's really about it, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.